hiding people's names because when they want their privacy respected. The moment that respecting your privacy results in me being harmed, your privacy no longer is of any concern to me. None whatsoever. When your privacy, or your excuse rather, of privacy results in my friends and family being threatened, being harmed, being assaulted, you're not going to get me to shut the hell up. This crap with Natalie started in 2016. It is now 2026. I have taken 10 years of hell, and the people who pretend to give a shit give me nothing but excuses. Are you listening to understand, or are you listening to order people around? Are you listening to understand, or are you listening to fix it? To interrupt and make another fix. Oh, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? We don't get very far. Hundreds of people have done that instead of A, listening to me, B, looking at evidence, and C, turning it in. It's actually a very simple process. Any of you who have ever had a daughter who was raped, you know that process. Any of you who have had a son beaten up at school have probably ignored that process. That's reality. Realistically, women are more likely to instigate violence than men by a lot. But men are more likely to be arrested, more likely to be convicted, and serve far longer sentences. Giving women a free ride has already destroyed this country. We got to see that back in the 90s. We got to see how the feminist movement wasn't about equality, it was about special privileges, and has continued to be so. And we can't blame women for that. We got to blame men and women. This is everybody taking part in this. I do mean everybody. If you live in the United States, then you take part in sexism in the United States. You live what you learn. You see it around you every day. You see commercials that post up the best looking men and the best looking women. TV shows that are full of the best looking men and the best looking women. And I have watched some shows that, what do they call those? The Star Trek fan films. It's a perfect example for you. And the Star Wars fan films, that's another perfect example for you. There's a lot of people that are not the best looking people that still make pretty decent movies. Of course, I've watched those movies with both men and women. Well, part of the way through with women. And part of the reason for that is because of the constant comments about people's looks. People's looks. You know what? I get that the captain is a fat, bearded man with a funny nose. I get that. I get that he's not the attractive man that you want to watch on TV. Please stop pretending that men are the only ones who are interested in another person. You know, when it comes to all of the stuff we're hearing from women, you know what? It's obvious to us that women are just as varied as we as men are. Well, you pile all of us men into the same cage. The fact is that Joseph Michael Lopez and myself were very different. Very different. Now, when I find myself having to try out a lot of people's different ideas. Some of these ideas are outright stupid. You know, when people told me, look up this and look up that, and the FBI will red flag you. And I'm like, well, I'm not looking up those 4 things right there. That's fucking gross. Those 4 things, whether it'll get me red flagged or not, I'm not watching it. But it didn't work. It still didn't work. So then I'm told, well, you're doing it wrong. You know that thing that they have where you can go incognito on your phone or on your computer? Yeah, they're looking for people who are in incognito mode. That's how they catch these guys. I'm like, all right, well, it's fucking going into incognito mode. But the thing is, I'm not looking up anything illegal. It's not actually illegal to look this crap up. I'm like, I don't understand how doing this shit is going to help me. I don't understand how looking up a fucking... I can't watch a video of somebody getting hacked to pieces. That's just disgusting. That's a human being. You know, just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's a good idea. How about looking at evidence? How about if you see something, say something? How many thousands of people in those Natalie Bollinger groups saw those people and what they were doing, what they were planning, and what they implemented? How many mandatory reporters are interested in true crime? How many nurses were in those groups, cheering it on, egging it on, taking part in it themselves? And we gotta make a comparison because some people have to have that. When you're not comparing them to somebody else, you're trying to tell them these things that other people did, and they're so wrong-headed that they're taking it as an insult, that you're telling them about harm that others did to you. It's some sort of slap to their face saying that they did that wrong thing, that they're responsible. Now, there's a lot of things that people want to claim, like, for example, there's the feller, I'll use his name because keeping people's names private because they're going to help you, but they never help you, and they also never come forward. They procrastinate. I tried to keep Kayla Trujillo's name safe. That means that when I was telling the stories about Kayla Trujillo, whose Facebook profile was Lilithu Sophia Krishnadas, which is a very long name, I know, but her real name is Kayla Trujillo. And I'd gone to her multiple times about the situation before Natalie was killed, and although she was not very nice, okay, I'll say it like that. When you say that you're going to help somebody and then they need to bring cigarettes and they need to bring food or they need to go panhandle in it or nobody gets to eat, you know, I'll go out and panhandle, but that's not what you said you'd help me with. I can understand completely with the kids when you say the kids. We can do it after the kids go to bed, just like what Shannon Alvarado did. But with all these people, what do they do after the kids go to bed? It's entertainment time. For Kayla Trujillo, that was drinking or smoking pot or both. When you say it's not illegal to drink, that's not the point. I'm not saying it's illegal to drink. I'm saying that when the only time that you are actually going to make time for somebody who is supposedly your friend when they've got people who are assaulting them and threatening to kill them and their friends and family, and they're having to, obviously, I'm having to spend my disability money to go see Kayla Trujillo. At the very beginning, I didn't even have disability money. I didn't even have that. I had to try to go see Kayla Trujillo in 2016 on nothing. Y'all don't like my crazy rants, right? How often I get that one. So Kayla Trujillo promised up and down that she was going to help me to turn this in, that she was going to listen to me, she was going to hear my side. That didn't end up happening. What ended up happening is in Christmas of 2016, when I got those Magic the Gathering cards for Christmas and got food for the house for Christmas and brought cigarettes into the house for Christmas. Now, when Kayla Trujillo said she was going to help me on multiple occasions, it ended up being a multiple day engagement. Before Natalie was killed, showing all of the evidence that I had, to show it all might have taken maybe an hour and a half of reading. Hey, this person here, you see, we were friends up until this point in October of 2016. Yeah, you see, we were friends. Yeah, that person is pretending that I stalked them over a medical emergency and a phone that they forced into my hands. And you guys want to say, well, you accepted it. Whether I accepted it or not, I want you to understand that the reality of it is very much the same. You're right, I did accept that telephone. Just like you're right, I did go to Virginia. Women are taught to manipulate us. They know exactly how to do it. The thing is that I didn't believe that Natalie Bollinger was faking it. That's because she wasn't. She did want her life to end over what her family did to her and continued to do to her. This Tony feller, he means well, or did, but the thing is, well, just like with Veronica Bruce, aka Missy Seward, or Veronica Seward, or whatever name she wants to go by now. She works at Region 3 Nebraska, or at least she did when Natalie was killed. I believe she worked at Region 2 and then she transferred to Region 3. But don't quote me on that. I don't know for certain. That's a mental health district in Nebraska. They separate the state into mental health districts. And the mental health districts have different jurisdictions than law enforcement. So somebody from Region 1 Scotts Bluff could come and see somebody all the way in Region 1 Chapel. Well, Scotts Bluff is a different county than Chapel. Chapel's in Dual County. You guys might be wondering what this has all got to do with names. Well, I tried to explain things while keeping people's names safe, and that doesn't work. My reality is absolutely a result of the people that I am dependent on for help, not understanding, not listening to understand, and for certainly after claiming they understand, not putting forth any effort. I'm not saying they don't put forth any effort at all. Some of them put a lot of effort into help that doesn't work. Some of them invest a lot of time into talking about their own problems as their excuse why they can't take the time to help me. Some of these people, hundreds of hours Hey, I'm going through hell because you would rather argue with me on the phone than look at a goddamn screenshot of somebody threatening to kill me or threatening to kill my friends and family. No. Now, the meth users, I've got recorded in here 3 different meth users who were nodding off. They show up. When they show up, they're incapable of hearing you because they want to talk 400 miles an hour because they're on meth and it's overactivated their brain. So they've got 1,000,000,001 ideas. Then they start coming down and they start going to sleep. They start getting bored. They start thinking about other things because they're bored. And that primary other thing is going to be more methamphetamines. And time and again, I've had to deal with that same exact issue from, you also get to hear out of nearly all of these people about how the meth isn't really the problem. Well, it is. You don't have an attention span at all. At all. For me, I'm having to remember a lot of different stuff. Oh, come on. I'm going to look something up. We're going to look up PTSD brain versus drug addicts brain. Mind you, we've got recording after recording from these people who claim to be my friends and their severe drug use. All right, so the AI overview says PTSD and addiction share overlapping neurobiology, both altering the brain's fear, reward, and executive control systems. So it's very difficult when somebody is in a state of crisis and they have PTSD. You guys don't know the difference. Kind of like when somebody has Tourette syndrome versus somebody who's geeking out because they're on friggin' meth. You guys don't know the difference. That's not my fault. Just because you don't know the difference between cerebral palsy and mental retardation doesn't mean that somebody with cerebral palsy is retarded. All right, key differences between shared mechanisms. Now let's make sure that you get to see that I'm showing you what I'm reading to you. I'm showing, come on. Well, you guys can look it up yourselves. Why is this always such a pain? All right. The reason that I'm reading this is because you guys have all had to deal with drug addicts. No matter what, they're in denial. Their drug addiction doesn't affect anybody else but themselves. They're not hurting anybody else but themselves. But then, well, we get to see example after example of exactly what I have to go through at the hands of drug addicts. And the dependence on drug addicts, even though I don't do drugs. Why? Because I don't have a friend or family member. The people who are offering to help me are drug addicts. The people who have the time or are willing to make the time are drug addicts. And it's a pretty shitty situation. Now it says here, key differences and shared mechanisms. PTSD brain, hyperactive fear network. The brain is stuck in threat mode, characterized by an overactive amygdala, fear processing, underactive prefrontal cortex, rational control, and increased norepinephrine, CFR stress chemicals. It lacks inhibitory control, leading to constant arousal. No, not sexual arousal. That's one of the things about keywords. You guys will take a word completely out of context. Like when a man is in a desperate situation, you hear the word desperate and you go, oh, he needs to get laid. He's going to go rape something. That's fucking stupid. No, a desperate situation would be like, let's say your car breaks down and you're in the middle of the desert and you don't see any cars for 3 days. You're pretty fucking desperate. All right, here it says drug addict's brain, altered reward pathway. Chronic drug use hijacks the dopamine reward system, lowering baseline pleasure and increasing motivation to seek the drug. It rewires the brain through increased glutamate, causing environmental triggers to prompt intense cravings. So, these people may have good intentions, but no matter how good their intentions, these are the people that I'm having to depend on. Shelley Robinson, drug addict. Yeah, we can go through the whole list nearly. The very few people in this situation that I know personally, the very few people that were not sober, or that were sober, that are not currently drug addicts. Most of them are recovering drug addicts. And they work very much the same. They're the folks who clean themselves up by realizing that they were the problem. But then they want to project onto others that those other people, because of their experience in realizing that they're the problem, they want to project onto others that need help that those others must also be the same as they are. Those other people, it must be because of their drug addiction that they can't get help. And you're going to give them a bunch of advice that isn't going to help them because they're not a drug addict. Now, there's another one of these I'm going to pull up as well. The thing is that when they're on the drugs, a lot of these drug addicts either, well, when they're on meth, I've seen two types. And, you know, really, if you don't have one that's freaking out, you can throw them in front of a bunch of people and let them talk nonstop. Or you can leave them in a room with a radio and a screwdriver for 12 hours. Same difference to them. The activity mode in their brain is entirely different. It says shared overlap. Both involve reduced PFC functioning and impaired stress regulation. Shared brain areas. Both affect the amygdala, hippocampus, and PFC. That would be the fear, memory, and impulse control. Mechanisms of comorbidity. Roughly 46% of people with PTSD have substance use disorders, often using drugs to self-medicate symptoms, effectively trying to calm the overactive amygdala. Both conditions are treatable and often require integrated care to address both the traumatic impact and the substance dependence. But what do you do when all they care about is the substance dependence? Because all these agencies that we're getting sent to get extra money if you have a chemical dependency. So they want to pretend that you have a chemical dependency to get more money. We're also being sent to peer support that are drug addicts. We were told to go to our friends and family, which that's not going to work when they're drug addicts. It's not like people who are sober actually give a shit about people like me. It's kind of like the situation where, well, I'll draw this out on a little index card. We'll make that the easiest. See, men We're constantly trying to make women happy. We try to make laws to make women happy. We literally allowed women to give us a bunch of laws that make it so that a woman can literally lie and send a man to prison. It's that simple. It doesn't matter how much evidence there is to the contrary, because she said it, she must be right. And as always, it's time to go victimize the man, whether he's guilty or not. I've taken almost a full decade of physical assaults and threats against my friends and family because you guys don't want to look at actual evidence. You don't want to actually help me. When I have to depend on a drug addict who is always going to come in here and try to shove their ideas and impose me as much as possible, I can't go to the store without that person wanting to try to turn everything into an argument. They're trying to convince me. How about instead of trying to convince me to do something that is harmful to me, instead of doing that every single time until I finally give in, you're a fucking drug addict. Why am I doing what you want? You're not listening to my explanation, but you expect me to listen to yours. You're a fucking drug addict. What am I listening to you for? Because I have to. Because I'm dependent on you. Because you have resources that I don't. Because despite the fact that you're a drug addict, people actually do care about you. They actually do love you. And if this shit happened to you, your loved ones would do something about it immediately. If your friends make you go alone, they're not your friends. If they promise to help you, if you waste a whole bunch of resources, and I do mean waste a bunch of resources because they don't follow through after you've spent all of that time. After they've promised you, like Kayla Trujillo, that if I went down there, that she was going to help me to turn this stuff in. If I drove all the way from Nebraska after the Natalie Bollinger situation, that she would help me to turn this stuff in. And when I got there, she would say things like, "Oh, why can't you do it yourself?" Or she'd tell me about how she needs gas money. She needs gas money. She needs this. She needs that. And I got disability money so I can pay it. And I'm paying it so that she can help me. But the things that I'm paying for, I'm not getting. It's just like the drug addicts here. I'm not getting the help that I need. I'm having to spend my disability money to pay drug addicts on the streets to hopefully verify this evidence, because I can't find a single person in a house who's going to do anything other than bullshit me. Then there's stuff that we all have to go through, but we're hijacked by women's crap. It's kind of like the LGBT crap. I supported the LGBT community for years. But then it became a bunch of sensationalist BS and a bunch of people who were expecting to free shit. I do believe that it should be a hate crime to assault somebody for being a homosexual or because you perceive them to be a homosexual. Now, here's the thing. The reason that I say that is because I have been assaulted many times for being a homosexual, and I'm not a homosexual. So yes, I stick up for homosexual rights, but are homosexuals going to stick up for my rights? No, I'm not seen as a homosexual by the homosexuals, and I'm not seen as straight by straight people. I am part of the LGBT community, but my gay friends say that I'm not, and my trans friends say that I'm not, and I'm also, for the most part, not even friends with my gay or trans friends anymore either. When I helped them, I did help them. When they said that they would help me, what it became instead is telling me that I have no right to say anything because I'm not gay. How dare I speak up about the abuse that I'm enduring because gay people have... No, they don't. Gay people do not have it worse. I have heard many gay people tell me that they've never been beaten up for being gay. Ever. I know plenty of gay people who have never been in a fight. I also happen to be one of the reasons that some of my gay friends never got into a fight. No, I'm not going to let you beat on a dude who's half your size because he's homosexual. That's not okay. Yeah, I'll take an ass whooping for that. It's worth it. Well, I don't even want to use these to trim my fingers. I just want to get them denastified. That's one of the things about ADOS, attention deficit shiny. It's one of the things about PTSD and about drug abuse. Now, one of the things about PTSD and also with schizophrenia, the reason that they make it go so long, why it takes at least 6 months to diagnose schizophrenia, is because that person might have gone through a traumatic experience. That person might have experienced some head trauma. That person might have experienced a recent loss, devastating loss. And then there's also the possibility that that person who is coming in and telling you, hey, I got 20 people in town, in a town of 500, I got 20 people in town who are making my life a living hell. It might turn out that it's true. Now, I got to speak very specifically about Tony. I like Tony. Him admitting his drug use does help. That does help me to understand his situation. It also helps me to understand how to interact with him. It also helps me to understand why he wants to keep as much as he can private, but at the same time, when his assumptions are resulting in me being harmed repeatedly because none of this is getting turned in. I'll give you this example. It's the same with my dad with the Forex.com. When it's something that you're interested in, you want to talk about it. If it's something that you're not interested in, you get bored and you want to leave. That's easy to figure out. When you're on drugs, well, it's even easier to figure out. It's going to happen. You are going to get bored and you're going to leave when I start talking about electronic stuff and I tell you it's Greek to me. I can't focus on you trying to explain 400 things to me. All right. I am in work mode. I need to work on showing you evidence so that you know that I'm telling the truth. Not believe me. I'm sick and tired of people saying, I believe you, only later on to say, well, you never showed me any evidence. Those people who wanted to say, I believe you, most of them I'd already sent evidence to. They just didn't look. Many of those people claimed that they would look at that evidence. Like, for example, Mandy Hughes claimed that she was going to look at that evidence, claimed that she watched all of my YouTube videos and read all of my Facebook posts and so on and so forth. And if that was true, then she wouldn't have been blindsided about the fact that I'd been saying her name for literally months. As soon as she said it was okay, I did. Then later on, she was blindsided by it, primarily because she couldn't remember what it is that she had said, but also because she had intentionally misled the situation. It's tough for her to keep her lies straight. There's a difference between having to try to keep your lies straight because you're a chronic liar and somebody who is trying to remember the names of all of the people they've gone to for help. has to remember all of the names of all of the people who took part in this and all of the dates and times. And these officers, when they've decided they're not going to hear your story, what they're going to do is they're going to harass you in a mean way to give you the time and date right that moment. And if you can't give it to them, they will treat you completely like shit. This is what it is like to go in as a broke person in the United States. And then, of course, we all know about the 5% rule. The man that women are complaining about that won't date them are the 5% of guys who are the best looking. That is statistically the truth. 95% of us just don't have what women find attractive. Then there's the body shaming, right? That 5% of men, 5% of men right here. I guess that's not working out so good. 5% of men right here, okay? And then here's the 95% other men. Now we got all these dating sites that want to feed off of these 95% of men. These 95% of men are the men who are doing all the work in this country. The 5% that women are interested in are good looking and rich. That is not you. You work construction. She doesn't give a shit. When she says she wants equality, she is not working construction. When women say that they can do everything without us, with all due respect, I have heard time and time and time again that most of the women I know don't know how to cook. Well, guess what? The men I know, the 95% of men that you shit on, they know how to cook. They know how to cook because you have ignored them their whole lives. They've had to learn how to cook. They've had to learn the quote unquote traditional women's skills. Have you learned any traditional men's skills? No? You don't know anything about plumbing? When we allowed women into the workforce, here's the thing, we opened the door for a shit ton of drama. A shit ton of it. A woman's brain is wired for self-preservation. A man's brain is wired for protection. Like we basically sell ourselves to the most available mate or the most needy person. Men are more likely to still be friends with somebody who has opposing opinions. Women are taught more to pretend to have the opinions of the people around them. We're taught differently, but women have a sex drive, same as men. Now, if one of these 95% of men who are not attractive or rich, the men who are actually building this country, working on this country, making sure that you can flush your toilet, making sure that you can actually cook your food, these are men's traditional jobs, but they're also jobs that have so many stereotypes to them because women hate poor people and they hate ugly. This is okay to call men superficial while making fun of men for being ugly. When we hear these things on here, there's a lot of men who are the 95% who watch these things about, what to do to get a woman to like you, how to get these women who are complaining and so on and so forth to see you as a viable option. And then, of course, these are catering to the 95% of men who are being ignored or considered ugly or unattractive because they don't have money or for whatever reason. It's catering to those guys. It just doesn't work for those guys. I had one woman that I was watching. She was complaining that there's all these queens with these fat older men, these ugly old guys. They ought to have more respect for themselves. They could get better than that. You're a queen. You're a queen. Do you not recognize that that's one of those women with that man that we keep getting to hear about on, well, in their TikToks and YouTubes and all that other stuff about how they just want a sugar daddy, how they don't want to work. And what are these women's jobs that we've created? These are service jobs. But are they services that help us, or are these services run by biased people? Are these services primarily run by women that are sexist towards men? Don't extend their services towards men, only women. It's horrible. With a man, he's told he just needs to man up. Men commit suicide at 5 times the rate of women, starting at the age of 15 for a reason. Man up. Girls start cutting on themselves at 5 times the rate of boys at the age of 15 for a reason. They might actually get heard. When they cut on themselves, they get sympathy. More often than not. They still go to a nuthatch. They still get tagged with that mentally ill tag, which means that anybody in their future can harm them and get away with it, unless they have a friend or family member who cares to turn it in right away. When your friends tell you just need to let it go, it doesn't matter your opinion, because the people who keep harming me aren't letting it go, and that is exactly the point. Natalie Bollinger, when I drove 1,700 miles to get away from her because she was on fucking drugs and making stupid decisions, I drove 1,700 miles so that if she made a stupid decision that resulted in her being dead, people weren't going to come after me and my family. When she got shot in the head, I didn't even know she was in the state of Colorado. Nobody cares about that. I had no idea where she lived. I did not have her address. When she wanted to claim that I was walking by her house, no. I was walking from Kenneth Wilson and Leatha Plunkett's all the way at 3395 South Zuni, all the way up Federal to Kayla Trujillo's on 120th and Melody. That's where she lived at the time. It's in Aurora. The first time was because Natalie claimed that she was going to meet me to stop all the crazy. Yeah, her fucking crazy, because she was on fucking drugs, and she was hanging out with a bunch of people who were on drugs, who were empowering her to do more drugs. And these people had lots of incentive to try to convince her that they should not talk to me, she should not try to stop whatever was going on for over a year, wanting to fill her head with, I just want to fuck her, so on and so forth. But the fact is, you look at the evidence, that's not the reality. For a whole year, her druggy friends, her ex-boyfriends who had made her life hell, these people made my life hell. Because she went back to them because they had the drugs. Very simple. Each one of these people has their own accumulated excuses, and they're just going to keep up on them. Like the guy who said that he was going to stop with the making of the suggestions, who never stopped making the same exact suggestions he'd been making. In his mind, it was, oh, well, what he means is don't make any more suggestions. When I tell him, hey, I can't take any more. I need to organize this stuff. You're bringing me more stuff. I can't organize it. And he says he understands. But I don't get to give him the explanation. He's too busy telling me he understands. So then I never get to explain to him what he's doing, because he's not going to hear it. This is not because I'm some horrible person who can't explain something in the English language. Although that's how people treat me when they hear the word mentally ill. I will say something in English, And then I literally need somebody who is a translator to say exactly the same thing to the person. I know this because I've seen it happen many times. You ever watch a comedy with Tim Allen called Galaxy Quest? And his first officer is a woman, and basically her job is to repeat what the computer said. You hear the computer. Why does she have to repeat it? Because that's her job in the show, and it's kind of funny, I guess. But it's not funny when you're an autistic person, and that's what you have to do. You're the computer. You have to find some blonde-haired vixen who's got too form-fitting of a suit to repeat what you literally just said to somebody who pretends like you're stupid, but that person saying it, they said exactly the same words that you did. And somehow this person who thought that you were mentally retarded understands perfect English, actually does understand English. So where's the issue? Is this my communication problem or theirs? Now, then when somebody says, I understand, stop doing all of this other stuff, stop pushing ideas on you. I understand. What you need help with is someone to look at the evidence, but they're not going to do that. I say, all you got to do is sit down next to me. The computer's already open. It's already right here. I don't need you to come up with more ideas to get more of these things, because I've got plenty. I've got ones that are full, and I got brand new ones. I have plenty. When I say I've already heard that idea, the problem is that they don't remember anything that you said because they're stuck on their own thoughts. At first, because their brain is overactive, because they're on meth. And then later on, because they're coming down and they want more meth. Alcoholics are the same, and it's sad. Now, with the names, I kept Kayla Trujillo's name a secret because she was going to help me to turn it in. When your friend is being assaulted, you turn it in right away. That's what you do. You don't make excuses for literally years like Claire Jordan. And it has been literally years. I want to say I met her at the end of 2022, but it might have been 2023. I've got phone after phone after phone in here with Claire Jordan in them. Let's find the specific one that's got the best juicy stuff. I mean, I got a lot of phones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one I'm using as an overhead light is 6. These people want to give me alternate help. When I tell them what my roadblocks are, I'm not asking you to spend 6 months trying to fix it. I'm asking you to take inventory with me. That's what we have to do first. We have to be organized. That means when we're making a checklist, we need to actually make the checklist, not make it a 4-hour argument. And that's what it is when you have already decided that you're going to push this stuff on somebody like it's crack. You don't want to recognize that. Then, of course, this feller who said that he was going to help me, I needed help because at CARE, since I got out of jail, they have not helped me to get my back payments back. Russell got the process started. Nobody else made a single effort. So then there's the housing thing. And again, we didn't make it anywhere because Shelly Robinson was not doing her job. And then, of course, her boss wanted to blame me, wanted to manufacture an excuse why it's my fault. This is one of the issues with going to drug addicts as well. When they don't keep their word, they're going to manufacture an excuse why it's not your fault. One of the examples is, God, I've got so many with just one feller. So he can't use the phone apparently, so we have to use, where is it? Some house phone thing, right? Because he's paranoid of the government seeing what he's saying, but he's talking to somebody who is literally not afraid of that. That's exactly what I'm trying to force, is the government to look at this stuff. I didn't go doing crazy stuff publicly on YouTube out of nowhere for no reason. So one of the examples, he tells me that I should knock on the door, right? So, well, no, at first it was I needed to try to use this phone thing that doesn't work. The first one he gave me, I lost. It's in here somewhere. I don't know exactly where. But it's an extra thing that he wants to add on top of it. And for months, or over a month, he's wanting to, push me to, plug this thing in, because apparently using my phone isn't going to work. Okay, well, then we'll do it a different way. We'll do all of this complicated stuff because you can't do it. Then I find out later on that he has a phone. I could have been sending him stuff the whole time. He just didn't want to use his regular phone because it's, again, a paranoia thing. He thinks the government's out to watch all of his personal stuff. And then you guys also got to hear about the branching worms thing. So, yeah, we didn't play any of the videos yet that have a lot of that in it. So when he tells me to knock on the door, or sorry, tells me to call him, I try, the phone doesn't work. I explain to him over and over and over again, you can talk until you're blue in the face, because he wants to tell me how to work this phone, and I have to tell him dozens of times, you have to show me. I'm not trying to be a dick by saying you have to show me. And I'm being real patient about you being sarcastic and damn near confrontational about me just saying that you have to show me. Or when I say you have to show me, you say, no, it's easy. You just blah, 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 blah. And he rattles off like 20 different instructions. No, I'm not going to fucking understand that. I am in a state of crisis. No, I can't focus on shit like that. I can't sit here and try to memorize all of that shit. Show me. Then there's when we finally agreed to use our real phones. Well, he can read anything that I send him, right? But then if for example, with the instructions that we were supposed to go through, I only had one page. I found the other pages. So I was trying to talk to him over the phone, and he wanted to do so in person. So I took those copies over to his van, and we got in, and he still didn't look at it, and we put them on the dash. We went and did what he wanted. There's all these things that, for example, the getting into the vehicle and driving to do the errands that he's offered to help me with. So for those errands, we don't actually do them. Like, he wanted to go someplace himself, and he's got his own ideas that he's already said he understands that that's just adding more to my plate. And then, for example, the batteries on that cart that he wants to give me, or wanted to give me, and then later on, wanted to tell me that I owe him $50 for it. But no, and I'm not going to spend money on batteries. He wanted to go down and get batteries. And the only reason I'm doing this is because he's pushy. Pushy, 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 pushy. No, Sean, I know better than you. I don't need to hear the instructions. He claimed we'd already gone over all the instructions. He was certain we'd gone through all four. No, we hadn't. We were going to do that in the vehicle. That didn't happen either. It's what he wants to do, and that's not my fault. It's not my fault when somebody wants to agree to help me how I need, and then they just want to continually change the deal, which is stretching out a whole lot of time, and then there's always some excuse. After the telephone thing, and then the other telephone thing, when he tells me that he's going to set it up so that we can spend 10 hours on actually looking at evidence. Whenever it comes down to him saying that he's going to do something like that, I know I'm going to get ghosted. So, of course, I do call him like he tells me to. He says I should have texted him. Well, I did text him, and I've got proof of that. He also says, oh, well, you should have knocked on the window. You should have knocked on some metal on the window or something. He even showed me what window to knock on. So I knocked on that, and I got dogs barking for 10 minutes, but I didn't get a human response. And then when I send the text messages, he can read those. But when I send a screenshot, which is when he sent that message, I sent him screenshots of the 4 pages of instructions because we hadn't gone over them. We were supposed to go over them. He said he was going to go over them, and then I was ghosted again. When it comes to the special projects, he said he was going to stop pushing. He's still pushing. The other thing is he wanted to show me that he's trying to be helpful by implementing all of this stuff, apparently in the time that he was ghosting me. But then we still haven't gotten around to that part. When it comes time to invest his time, it always comes back around to what he wants. Well, are you sure we can't blah, 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 blah? I've already heard the electronic stuff. How about you hear me when I tell you I have USB drives? And there's all this stuff that he wants to tell me not to buy. Don't get this. Don't get that. Don't do this. Be frugal. You know what? I have been because I've had to be. But at the same time, I have been prevented from turning in the crimes against me because of that poverty, including the assumptions of people who obviously have far more than I do. I guarantee you, if somebody was stalking Tony the way that I'm being stalked, the people in his life would do something immediately. So in the multiple times that we were supposed to look at evidence and make calls, and I actually set up the appointments and let him know about the appointments, but then he wanted to push a bunch of other stuff on me. Well, we should get you an appointment to this and this and this and this. I'm like, hold on a minute. We don't need to set up a fucking dental appointment. Okay, it'd be nice to get dentures, sure. Okay, but I'm not going to let you push dentures on me in lieu of looking at evidence and turning it in. Now, of course, in the van, there was a guy who was smoking a cigar, and it fucking was stinking me out. And I was in there for an hour and a half because Tony was on tweaker time going through shit on shelves. So, we're still not working on what I need. We didn't go out to storage, get the stuff out there that I needed, but, well, I got to spend some more money to get some other things that would at least suffice. Sure, I don't have those sticks, but I've got 3 tiki torches I can put in the corner. Best I can do. Now I'm in that vehicle. He's smoking. Tony's smoking. I got the door open, and I'm leaning out the door smoking because I can't fucking handle that shit. So when Tony with the telephones, and he's telling me, well, I should have called him. And I showed him that I did call him. I literally showed it to him that I did call him. He Went and grabbed his phone because he was inside of his van at the time. He couldn't actually see my phone. I was standing on the sidewalk. But he grabbed his phone and he looked at it and realized that I had called. And then he had a bunch of stuff to say about that. So he didn't keep his word. And then he blamed it on me and then the stupid phone. Okay, well, I can understand having a stupid smartphone. I can understand how a crack on your screen can affect your life and affect your ability to do things. But it's easy. I also I'm willing to buy somebody phones so that they can literally help me now instead of making excuses that their phone is broken. You want to keep that excuse at that point. Now, obviously, he's able to text me. He's able to text some pretty long stuff. So he's able to see what's on there. When I sent him the screenshots of the pieces of paper that we were supposed to go over that he didn't. This is after he's already missed the situation of looking at this stuff on the internet and turning it into an officer, which he was aware of and made aware of more than once. I had to fucking sit in that thing and that stink for an hour and a half. So, of course, the great thing about my tent is that if it gets smoky, much like with a van, if the van is getting too smoky, I can open the door and lean out. Also, if I need it to air out a bit, it's still going to smell like cigarettes, or in that case, a cigar. But I can open the door and at least the smoke's going to go out. So, yeah, the thing is that an unpleasant smell is an unpleasant smell. And I'm not going to go into the unpleasant smells with Tony because it's something that he would very likely get highly offended by, and it's tell me that it's nobody's business. And I agree. I agree that none of this shit should have been anybody's business but mine, Natalie's, and a fucking cop. Or mine, Natalie's, and a fucking arbiter. What we didn't need is 400 fucking drug addicted morons looking for excuses. And no, there weren't 400. There was only about 40 people involved in it, but they were physically assaulting me over shit I didn't do. To this day, I get physically assaulted over those things. Now, is it that difficult for a friend or family member to give a shit enough to watch a video that proves that you were assaulted instead of arguing with you? Once you've seen the video, why do you insist on going back to arguing? I'm told to go to a friend or family member right away, and he says he's my friend. But then I go to him right away. I go to somebody. I always go to somebody right away. I always try. Always. But they never try to fulfill their end of it. We have to turn it in together. And right away. But we can't do that if you spent no time finding out what's going on. You know, I've had to pull myself away multiple times because Tony, as soon as I got money, Tony was aware of it, and he was pretty Johnny on the spot all of a sudden about all these things he wanted to do for me. He was also going and helping other people, apparently, that I didn't see it, but just because I wasn't there to see it doesn't mean it's a lie. However, if I was to treat him with equality, that is how I'd treat him. For months, I had to deal with that. I had to deal with somebody who doesn't recognize how his addictions affect those around him. I understand that when all of your friends are strung out on meth, leaving is the best thing to do. That's why when my friends in Chapel, Nebraska turned into meth addicts, I moved to Boulder, Colorado. And I never intended on going back to Chapel, Nebraska. Ever. It's a racist KKK town, and the people there were horrible to me. Calling me N-word lover, pretending I'm a homosexual, being hateful of the fact that I look too Jewish. It just was not a fun time. Now, there's a difference between having a valid reason and manufacturing an excuse. And I got tired of this guy's excuses weeks ago. I kept on giving him a chance. Just nothing. So there's the occasions where I called where he claimed it was because I didn't call. The occasions where I texted because that's what he told me to do, and he claimed I didn't text. And then more recently, he had some other idea about how I should have gotten a hold of him, and that I was somehow in the wrong because I hadn't used this other alternate oh my God route to get a hold of him. There's also on one of those days, he told me to knock on the door. So I did. On another one of those days, he told me to just walk in. The door was locked. One of those days, I went in there to see what was going on and talked to his roommate. And his roommate yelled down the stairs, and he yelled up the stairs, "I'm sleeping." Okay, so he's sleeping. Then he came out and chastised me for not waking him up. So you should wake me up. You were woken up. Somebody did wake you up. Somebody did call you. Somebody did text you. Then his excuse after that Smokey Van situation, which wasn't pleasant for me, he wants to tell me that, and you guys have seen me chain smoke. Absolutely, especially when having to listen to these videos or listen to these recordings. Absolutely, I chain smoke. But also, while he was in here, I didn't. I don't have time to smoke while I got papers in my hands, while I'm busy typing stuff. You know, the thing with one of those recordings is that once it started, I don't have to do anything else. You know, I can press play and go about cleaning up all the extra shit that I haven't been able to move. And he doesn't stop to understand what an extra chore he has created for me, or how much physical pain I am in right now at this very moment because of all of the extra stuff that has been piled up. Because there's the stuff that he says that he's going to do, and I spend the time and make the time because he says he's going to help me, and he doesn't make the time to help me. A no call, no show. Over and over and over again, a no call, no show. On one of those occasions, I said, well, you could have come out and got me. He said, well, it sounded like you were talking to somebody. And yeah, I probably was. I was probably talking to my YouTube channel at that point, because it was a recurring issue that kept on coming up. So then there's the being condescending to me, like he has been so many times with his ideas. This is the thing, is he thinks that getting condescending and talking me down to me like I'm a retard, he thinks that's okay. Oh no, I know better than the retard. No, Sean, we don't actually need to try following the instructions that you have. No, I've got a better idea. Everybody's got a better idea they never get around to. Like him saying that he was going to take my laundry and he was going to make photocopies. This is the stuff, a whole pile of papers that he was passing out on, and then he'd wake up for a minute and hand them back to me. Jesus fuck. So the one time that he was in here to sit down and look at the computer and actually keep his word, he just simply was not mentally capable of wrapping himself around a situation that did not involve being on drugs or looking for drugs. I'm tired of drug addicts telling me that they're the one drug addict who is not like that. They're the one meth addict that's not like that. Well, if every meth addict is not like that, and then they show that they are like that, it's real difficult to believe somebody who's a meth addict who says they're not like that. When you've got experience throughout most of your life having to deal with people who are on one substance or another, whether you're in an institution with people who are on, well, the government form of those street drugs, or whether you're out on the streets and people are doing those street drugs, or whether you're at home and your parents are doing those street drugs and pharmaceuticals and or alcohol. My mom didn't drink, but my dad did. Shannon Alvarado's alcoholism too. I mean, it's a fucking epidemic in this goddamn country. It's horrible. Most of us were conceived while our parents were on drugs or alcohol. And as much as you may not want to admit that to your kids, you might recognize that your parents probably wouldn't admit that to you either. Were you conceived because your mom and dad were on a coke binge? Possibly. Now then there's every aspect where we have had to fight for disabled rights, where those rights are being hijacked by women. The attention is being hijacked by women. Women who are highly abusive. Many of these women are not autistic. They get a later in life diagnosis because they're lazy. They thought their looks would last forever. And they don't want to work. I don't have a good back, but I love working. I love making stuff. I mean, between continuing to work on my boat here that I'm making. Yeah, it's a little model boat. No, I don't believe that I'm going to go out on the open seas on a model boat that's 21 inches long. That would just be stupid. But this is the kind of stuff I like to do. This is the kind of stuff that we spend our time on. Well, you want to pretend that we only think about sex. Well, women want to be shitty to the 95% of men that they're not fucking interested in. When they complain that men won't ask them out and men won't date them, they're not talking about you. They don't give a shit about you. When they're talking about simps, yeah, you're broke. You're in that category. Now, those of you who are lucky enough to have somebody in your life who's not completely shitty, yes, I envy you. Absolutely. Those of you who have families that would rather help you to stop abuse than get fucked up on drugs and alcohol, I envy you. Those of you who have friends or family that'll help you to turn it in right away instead of, well, deciding that you're their therapist. You can see there's many calls with Claire. Very, very long calls, some of them. There's a lot of screenshots and videos and audio recordings of people physically assaulting me, threatening to kill me, threatening to kill my friends and family. And she never, ever once lifted a finger to help turn that in. At the same time, she really didn't bother to find out what was going on, because in all of those conversations, you can see that instead of helping me to turn it in right away, she makes excuses. Now, the same thing with this Tony feller. When this shit happens, I have to turn it in right away. Yes, we have a very specific set of people that we're supposed to send it to when it happens. But the thing is, if I tell you that Andrew Wolnez is doing this shit again, or that somebody's posing as his mom and fucking doing this shit, and it goes right in one ear and out the other. I didn't tell you for your entertainment. I told you because this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what the instructions tell me to do, and they're also what you told me to do. When Tony says, you can tell me this stuff when it happens, I did. You were busy on tweaker time. You were busy in your own head with your own assumptions and delusions about what this is going to actually entail. It is a delusion. His ideas are, if there was just a couple little issues and it's all snap your finger, okay, circle perfect. But it's not. His assumption, which has transformed itself into a delusion, and this is not a schizophrenic trait, by the way. You can claim it's a schizophrenic trait all you want, but you guys who have already decided, you've decided who's guilty based on their looks. And of course, we get to hear women all the time telling their daughters, oh, you'll make beautiful babies together. He's so handsome, you'll make beautiful babies. Yep. Now, when women are complaining that men are hoes, that's 5% actually. The rest of us don't matter. We're lucky if somebody acknowledges our existence. We're lucky if we can say hello without getting treated like we are trying to rape you. Meanwhile, if he's rich and good looking, you get to hear people like, God, what was that lady's name? Amanda Payne in Chapel, Nebraska. And her mom both said they wish Johnny Depp would rape them. Now that's just disgusting. Amanda said that her mom said that she would rape Johnny Depp if she could. Now this is disgusting. Now then, of course, when we try to get help from these, we've got all these women who want to tell us to go to these different groups that are supposed to help out victims of this type of abuse. But then you get to those groups and you're made fun of by a bunch of women. You're treated like, how dare you come here? Women are more victimized than men. No, they're not. Men are more likely to be convicted because women are more likely to be believed. For a man, it's near impossible to get a conviction against a woman, even with evidence. If that man doesn't have the money for a real fucking lawyer, he shouldn't have to get the money for a lawyer. Wrong is wrong. The police have a job to do, regardless of the color of skin of the victim, regardless of the gender of the victim, regardless of the disabilities of the victim. And if the victim is disabled, it is for certainly not okay to victimize that person further and try to pretend that they have disabilities that they don't to justify your criminal acts. Police illegally preventing me from going to court, lying to the courts, lying in their reports. That's all easy stuff to prove. But the problem is I'm going to get treated like I'm schizophrenic and delusional until I get someone to take a look at it. Take a look at it and turn it in with me. There's people who have looked at it, but never bothered to turn it in. There's people who wanted to bully me to turn it in when they didn't know shit about it. Kind of like, well, when Natalie first disappeared, starting before she disappeared, when Kayla Trujillo was wanting to make plans and ideas for me, she decided that I needed to be part of a dating site and that would help fix my problems. No, I needed a fucking dog. People suck. After Natalie died, people wanted to try to force a bunch of bad ideas on me. They had already decided what needed to be done. While people are getting a hold of me and telling me they're going to help me, and then they're arguing with people on Facebook, they don't know anything about the situation. And then because they're arguing on Facebook in these Natalie Bollinger groups, Natalie Bollinger's friends and family threatened to kill them, threatened to kill their friends and family for arguing on Facebook. Were they spending any time actually finding out what was going on? No, they were arguing on Facebook. Did they respect my boundaries when I said I am not leaving state until I have my flip phone? That flip phone is full of evidence and it is important. How about when I said, hey, Amanda Engeline, you know, I'm going to see Jamie Curtis in Rapid City, South Dakota. This is in January of 2018. Okay, this is right after her and the Paytons did some pretty horrible shit to me. She wanted to hide the fact that James beat the fuck out of her and her son repeatedly. That isn't my fault. That doesn't make it okay to destroy evidence. That doesn't make it okay to repeatedly harass somebody who's trying to get help. And that is what the Bollingers and their friends did to me repeatedly before she was killed. I was gaslighted like a motherfucker. And to this day, I'm having to rely on drug addicts. Seth Jordan, drug addict. Yeah, he sat here and did exactly the same thing Tony did. Wanted to talk about a bunch of stuff and then start fucking passing out and nodding off and then basically just ran off with my money. At least with Tony, I didn't have to do that. Now, when I give money, it's freely given. If I give you money for a job, a chore, or a task, that's not freely given. I expect you to keep your word instead of ripping off disabled people. When I pay you to help me and then you do the opposite of help, and then you want to tell yourself that you earned the money by whatever excuse you feed yourself, that is a drug-induced fucking delusion. So then he sends me this thing. I didn't read the whole damn thing. There's no possible way I'm going to. And since the first words of it are bullshit, I mean, I'm at the end of my ropes here. His excuse was that he wants to be condescending and do this whole thing about how secondhand smoke, blah, 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 blah. I was in his van. I was the one who was leaning out of the vehicle to smoke. I was in his van. I'm very well aware of secondhand smoke. I'm very well aware of that situation. I'm also capable of going without smoking, which if you'd have stayed conscious would have known. When it comes to you expressing that you have an issue with that smoke, you can express that issue. If I happen to light a cigarette and you have an issue with it, well then fine. Once you let me know you have an issue with it, that's okay. I can open the fucking flap and I won't light any more cigarettes. With anyone at a type this condescending thing about how cigarettes are bad and being in secondhand smoke. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock, but that doesn't validate your excuse. That is not a valid excuse for not keeping your word. You're digging for fucking bullshit. If you're going to help me, help me. Just don't fucking bullshit me and don't fucking lie to me. Don't blame me when you don't follow your word, when you don't keep your word. Don't blame me when you keep being pushy about the same shit that you said over 2 weeks ago you were going to knock that shit off. And last week you said you were going to knock that shit off. The problem with Veronica Bruce wasn't that I was not trying to communicate. It's that it is impossible to communicate with a fucking alcoholic. It is impossible. Now, whether she is an alcoholic or not, she sure as shit acted like it on the one time that she actually set it up to talk with me. The one time that she actually did that, instead of taking it seriously, she wanted to do it while she was painting a room in her house and drinking. And Brenda Dickinson, she's got a valid excuse. The drugs that she's on are prescribed for cancer. But the same scatterbrained bullshit. And no, these people aren't going to be able to comprehend what's going on. At first, their brain is going too fast because they just smoked some shit. And then it's going way too slow because they're coming down and all they can think of is getting more drugs in their system. Now try playing that back fast. When you say, hey, Sean, you're rambling. No, I'm not. I'm speaking up. I have not stopped speaking up. The fact is that these drug addicts and alcoholics have still done more than any of you have, with the exception of my stalkers who, well, you guys have put a lot of fucking work in. Holy shit. If I could get somebody to spend 1 hour helping me to do that, I get to see these guys typing my tag up to harass me. Oh, they made a new video and it's all about making fun of me and how I have been harassing people with telekinesis and been all sorts of stuff with telekinesis and benzos and blah, 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 blah. God, these guys spend a lot of time making these videos. They also spend a lot of time going through my videos and harassing me on the videos and recording little bits and pieces to post up on their videos while they're making fun of me. And God damn, if I could get one person to invest just that much fucking time, the amount of time that it takes those guys to make one of their harassment videos, if I could get one person to pretend to be my friend long enough to do that, and I say pretend to be my friend because it's obvious they're not if they're just going to make excuses. If they're going to go out of their way and be condescending, and also they're manipulative, they're fucking drug addicts. One of the biggest issues that I've had with drug addicts has also been the fact that they're dating somebody or they're with somebody. And even though that person wasn't necessarily a problem at the time, that person was, in many cases, the target of abuse. Like, for example, Shannon Alvarado, the target of her abuse while I was there wasn't primarily me. It was primarily her boyfriend. But also, is her boyfriend going to take her side or mine? And also, at the time, he was stuck in a subservient situation. She'd promised that if he helped her, that she would pay his rent. Well, she didn't pay his rent. So he had to move in with her, where she had complete control over the situation. And not that it matters, he didn't follow her boundaries either. When she kicked him out, which she probably did 200 times, without exaggeration, while I was there, he never left when he was kicked out. Never. He sat there fucking around on his phone. What do I do when somebody wants me to leave? I fucking leave. Now, her boyfriend's name was Rick. And with Rick, of course, he's going to take his girlfriend's side, especially when he's stuck in a subservient environment or when the decisions that he's made make him look like a cuck or like a shameful excuse and a spineless runt of a man. The fact that he let his girlfriend rip him off for the rent money. He quit his job to help her take care of her daughter. This is what he did. He quit his job to help her take care of her daughter and her dad, who was paralyzed at the time. So, she's not taking care of them, though. There's 2 Hispanic nannies who are taking care of her dad. And she's sort of taking care of her kids, sort of, in between her special projects of a whole bunch of crazy shit. And you guys also want me to read a bunch of books. Hey, have you read this book? Have you read that book? Hey, you should watch this YouTube video. And Shannon Alvarado was horrible about that. But the thing is that all of you were horrible about that when you assume that the person who's trying to get help is retarded. My instructions from attorneys are to record everything. My instructions as far as a disabled person are turn it in right away with a friend or family member. Now, if people can't understand that simple stuff right there, they can't understand that if they don't listen, they don't know what's going on, and therefore their decision making in the situation is going to be erred. All right, it's this one. We're going to show you just a part of what I had to go through with Claire so that you guys are aware. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, I apparently didn't plug the phone in and it died. But then again, I got a lot of phones. Now, all of this stuff comes down to people who are going to say, oh, you're ungrateful, you're ungrateful, you're ungrateful. No, I'm not ungrateful. I'm pissed off. No matter what excuse you want to make, you have literally gone out of your way to not help me to turn it in, to not look at evidence, to put 10,000 issues in between myself and the help that I need. And I say 10,000 issues because when somebody's going to make excuses, they're just going to keep on doing it. They're not going to stop making the excuses. Can you believe somebody who says that they're sorry when they do the same thing again? Many people expect apologies from me because I did stuff back. And it wasn't even the horrible shit that they did. I didn't go running people down and fucking assaulting them. I didn't try to run people over with my fucking car or my truck. I didn't go kicking in the side of people's vehicles. I didn't go putting rocks through windows just because I didn't like somebody. Now in Chapel, Nebraska, you're damn right I broke windows in low income. I had to find a way to turn in the abuse somehow. I had to try to turn in the assault somehow. I had to turn in the threats somehow. And the police wouldn't do their jobs. They won't even document it unless I break the law. So then you want to say, oh, well, you broke the law. Yeah, because I fucking had to. If I go to them because I'm being fucking assaulted and they decide they just don't want to write it down, well, you know what? If I have to break the law to get them to write down that I actually went to them, well, at least they'll have to write down and admit that I actually went to them. I shouldn't have to break the law to show that people are assaulting me, to show that people are threatening to kill me and my friends and family. See, here's how you help predators get away. You make any excuse not to lift a goddamn finger to help the victim. I never had friends or family. I had relatives and acquaintances.